Alrighty, so let's get started. So what is ProjectTeam, or who are we? ProjectTeam is made up of a bunch of construction people. So we have a long history of services, training, implementation, and beyond within the industry. All of our management team, all of our services people must have some industry experience. So they come from a wide range of different types of people, whether that's owners, architects, engineering firms, contracting firms, construction firms. And everyone that you would be dealing with on a day-to-day basis after signing up or beginning with ProjectTeam has, walked the walk or has been in your shoes in some way. Second point here is we know software. So ProjectTeam actually started as a services company. We did implementation, services, training for industry-leading software. So there's been a lot of software that we've looked at in the past. We've done a lot of services, but based on those things, we feel that some of the software that we represented in the past might be lacking in some of the features or some of the innovation that we thought we could bring forth. And that's kind of where we started ProjectTeam and ProjectTeam.com. And so ProjectTeam.com or ProjectTeam has been built to be different. So we have three main emphasis points. Obviously, ease of use. That goes to you using the system, but it also goes to anybody that might be connecting to you on projects. Of course, we never want to burden the person that's paying for the system, using the system, with a bunch of outside questions from somebody that has been connected to you. So we want to have a big emphasis on ease of use. And almost everything that we do from a feature standpoint, we always have a conversation of, is this the easiest way to do this? It might be very robust features like reporting or configuration, customization, things like that. But if it's not easy, people won't use it, and we want to really make sure that we focus on that ease of use. Second is collaboration. So the way that we, term collaboration is a little bit different than some others. Other systems might say, you know what, we're going to have free collaborators, but we're going to charge you, even might be hidden cost, but we're going to charge you for all of those people. We take a little bit of a different approach. So the way our costing model is really based on internal users or the ownership of the project. You can then collaborate with as many external people as you want. Those external people, and many of you on the call might be external users, there is some limitations that you have. Of course, there's no need for you all, not paying yet, to be able to customize or be able to create these really robust reports, things like that. You always have the option to become a subscriber to ProjectTeam, but it's not required. So it's very, very easy to send out invitations, connect with people on projects, and then ProjectTeam really becomes your single source of truth as you're collaborating and sharing information. And then the last piece here is configuration. I'm going to talk a lot about configuration today. When I say configuration, I mean that you can create forms or fields to match whatever business process you need. So I will go into a lot more detail there. So how do we bring forth a better solution, or why is ProjectTeam a better solution than possibly what you have now or what you're looking to get into? First of all, the first piece here is collaboration. I already talked about this a little bit, but we have directories, we have the ability to share forms. You can selectively share forms, which means that, let's say that an RFI is created. I'm not ready to distribute that to my entire team. I want to, keep that thing in draft mode, maybe make sure that my spelling and my grammar, my attachments is all correct before I share it to somebody internal, and then we share that out to all of the other contractors, etc. So lots of ways to collaborate internally and externally within the system. To the collaboration point, the other thing that we focus on a ton is giving you the tools. So ProjectTeam really is more of a platform. We have standard forms, RFIs, contracts, change orders, submittals, things like that come out of the box in the system. On day one when you sign up, you have those forms. You can certainly use those, but you can also expand the functionality there by adding your own configurations. And the reason that we do that is really to match your goals. So you're taking your software, ProjectTeam.com, and molding that to meet your business goals, not molding your business goals to meet a pre-built software that might not be flexible. We feel that non-flexible software is certainly a big limitation in a lot of the other products that are available today. Why? Let's say you're a larger organization. In some of the other software and other costs, you might be paying $100,000 for software for your organization to manage your projects. If it's not flexible, there might be some times, maybe 6 months down the road or whatever, that you can't find a spot for this piece of information. There's no way to add a custom field or a custom form, etc. So you resort to also tracking that information in Excel. Now you're paying $100,000 for a system, and you're also using Excel, and so your data is not all in one spot. So ProjectTeam kind of solves that by giving you unlimited flexibility within the same platform, and you can build whatever you need, report, dashboard on whatever you need, and it's all there. And that goes to my third point here. Reports are all built into ProjectTeam. There's very, very robust reporting tools. I do have a webinar coming up later in the year. I think there's actually a 2-part webinar, a part 1 and an advanced piece, going over the report and dashboarding tool. Anything that you track in the system, including any customizations, can be rolled up into your different reports or dashboards. I will show a couple examples of those items in today's webinar, but we'll also talk a lot more about those in a later time. So the next question is, who uses ProjectTeam? So there's thousands of companies or organizations that use ProjectTeam today. I've listed a couple here. Some of, there's, if you look at the names, there's government agencies like DCDGS, there's commercial owners like Nokia and Tires, there's counties or small governments like Washington County, there's certainly CM or owner's rep type of firms like Procon Consulting or Alpha, there's large general contractors, Smoot, etc. And then there's also energy contractors, etc. from different areas, Invenergy, Tolman, and those type of companies. If you look at the reviews that we have online, I think consistently you'll see that people really love not only the configuration that I've talked about, which is a major differentiator between ProjectTeam and others, but they also really enjoy our services. Like I mentioned, all of the people that we'd be working with every day come from the industry. We match you up with people that are kind of have a previous work experience to what you all are doing today. And so we've got a lot of really great reviews online and a lot of good companies that are using ProjectTeam. When we look at the industry as a whole, so construction-related software, there's a few different websites, Software Advice, Capterra, etc., that go through and rate different softwares, and you can read all about that. But it's actually a pretty overwhelming number. So Software Advice has come out and said there's over 230 different construction-related applications that you can use on your projects, or that might be available for use on projects. That's a huge number. Of course, if you're trying to do demos and look at all of those, that'll take months and months and months. But this graph on the left-hand side is kind of the best of the best. So looking at this graph, you see top rated in usability and customer satisfaction. You'll notice that ProjectTeam is very highly ranked within that best of the best area. And I think that's for many reasons. Some of those reasons I already talked about. When comparing ProjectTeam to some of the other industry-leading softwares, we look at, people have heard about Procore or Autodesk, etc. You'll notice that we rank very, very well against those. So ease of use, customer service, features, value for money, etc. We have really, really great ratings across those different websites compared to some of the other softwares. And then my last piece here before I get into the actual demo. So the number one thing, like I mentioned, that people come to ProjectTeam for is the ability to configure. You can build your own intellectual property right into the system, then match your business goals throughout the system. So whatever you're trying to do within a business construction product, you can build that in ProjectTeam. So we give you kind of the platform. Certainly there are system forms and system fields and kind of the industry standards that you get out of the box, but you can also build in your own standards to make sure that this is an exact fit solution for your organization. Second is the ability to batch import. So I think there's a lot of different organizations today that are still kind of standardized on Excel, or you might be having lots of different processes that you're kind of putting together, and that creates more of a spreadsheet type of view. Even if you're coming from another solution looking to get into ProjectTeam, we have really great batch importing tools, and I'll go through an example of that. Importing is super simple in ProjectTeam. There's a really nice template that we give you. You can certainly map templates from other systems in kind of an integration type of way, and then you can very quickly import hundreds or even thousands of records into ProjectTeam very quickly. Beyond that, I did mention powerful reporting. I will talk about this. I'll go through some examples. When we talk about reporting, typically what we say is any decent system, including Excel, which is almost free, can take input from people, right? So I can go into an Excel spreadsheet and I can input data. The real value of a system, though, is the ability to get that output of the system in some insightful way. So I want reports and dashboards to help drive decision making on my projects, to make this a better tool for my team and give me lessons learned and share my knowledge between employees, things like that. So that's where we feel the reporting side of a construction management system is extremely important. ProjectTeam does a great job of reports. It's all built in. You don't have to integrate into other systems. We certainly can integrate into other business BI type of tools, but reporting is all built into ProjectTeam. Next is configurable workflows. Workflows can be set up on a step-by-step process. I will show you workflows, and there's lots of different business rules that you can work into your workflows. Connecting and sharing, I talked about collaboration a lot, but it's very simple to do. You can invite people to your projects. And then finally, a platform for integration. So ProjectTeam does have the ability to integrate, I think, with 250 different applications. Those could be financial tools like Sage, JDE, QuickBooks, depending on the size of your organization, CRM tools like Salesforce, et cetera, or just general business tools. There's a lot of ability to import and create integrations within ProjectTeam to kind of standardize your business process and make it the most efficient for your group. All right, so those are kind of the 6 slides that I had here. I will get back to the slides just to kind of go to the Q&A at the end of this presentation. But at this time, I'd like to jump over to the actual system, and we can kind of dive in and see what's going on. So I'm going to switch over to ProjectTeam.com. I'm at the login page here. I can see my email address and my password has been entered. Of course, we do allow, depending on the type of organization you have, if you will have an SSO configuration, single sign-on, certainly we can support that, and it'll go through your SSO provider. But in this case, I'm just going to put in my email address and my password, and then click login. The first page that I get to is what's called the My page. On the right-hand side, I see different activities showing up, and this is kind of just a running list of everything that I have access to across my different projects. I might be collaborating with a ton of different people on my projects. Depending on their activities, those things would show up on my My page. But as I was kind of preparing for this webinar, I do see my face showing up a bunch of times. I see things like my folders, my RFIs, et cetera, in here. I can filter this list down by project. So my organization might have hundreds or thousands or whatever types of projects that you have within your organization. Users within your same company would have some subset of those, and then activities are driven by whatever projects they have access to. From these different activity records, I can always jump into the project homepage, or I could jump into any of the different documents. So if I click into this RFI, I get right in here. I can read more about this record, see everything that's going on, et cetera. I'll go ahead and go back. On the left-hand side, I have 2 quick dashboards, one for action items and one for workflows. For example, I have 2 action items or tasks that have been assigned to me that are currently overdue. I can click into that and see the full list view here. So the first one, follow up with Mariah. I can see it has to do with this meeting about hill construction. I can click into there, I can read about the meeting, but I also see that action item that we just came from the list view is also going to follow me around everywhere that I go on this meeting. So these tasks are always going to stay with me. Notifications are sent out with new action items that are created and assigned. And then if I mark different items complete, notifications are also going to be sent out to the person assigned to you saying that, hey, this person completed the action item that has been assigned. Underneath of the action items, we also have workflows. So I can jump into my workflow, kind of my Kanban board here. Information is kind of moving from right to left. All of these workflows are associated with the different documents that you have throughout your different projects. And again, I can click in. So let's say I've got this payment application associated with some workflow about contracts over $1 million. I can see when I get in here, this is not the most current payment application, so there's some things I can make decisions on there. But I also see this workflow is currently pending in my court, and I can take action or go down to view the workflows as needed. And I'll spend more time on what a workflow actually looks like and the visuals there in a second. But it does allow me to very quickly, from my home page, jump right into recent activity, action items that are assigned to me, or workflows that are assigned to me. On the top left of my screen, as we kind of continue through this general navigation, I see my project team logo. If you all were to sign up, or if you guys are connected and you want to add kind of personalize this in any way, you would add your logo in there. That way everyone's kind of logging in and seeing your own branding. Next to that, we have a projects dropdown, and I can jump into different projects, and I will do that in a second. And then we also have a global search. So this goes to that ease of use piece that I talked about earlier. From any screen, pretty much, you can always search throughout your entire system. So we do have project-specific searches, but then also, since I'm just at this main My Page screen, I can go in here, I can type the word concrete. It's going to search through all of my different projects very quickly. Then I see all the different areas that have been matched on that word concrete. So I can see it's matched on some field reports, some middle items, middle packages, etc. It's matching across my different projects, which is a link on the right-hand side. And I can see this from a list view or a detail view. So if I want to read more about what's going on here, maybe I want to see the data around that search term that I just entered, I can always click to the detail view, read everything that's going on here, and then simply click to jump into that record. Again, I'll just go back in my browser a couple times to get back to the My Page. All right. So at this point, I think it's good to jump into a project. In ProjectTeam, you can manage as many projects as you want. You can also kind of aggregate data outside of a project into portfolio level views or company or organizational views to kind of see at a higher level outside of a project if I am more of a administrator or an executive role, I can see that data all in one. For this case, I'm first going to jump into the Plano, this first project here. When I get in, I see favorite form types across the top of my screen. Certainly, you can configure this any way that you want. So let's say my role doesn't really, maybe I have access to things like budget information, but I don't really work in that every day. I can always edit this, turn budget items, budget amendments off, say save, and those things are taken away from my screen. Certainly, you could add or remove as many items as you want to make this as personalized as you need it to look on your different projects. This is a user-specific preference, so I'm not messing with anybody else's permissions or anything here. I'm just saying that I don't really care to see those things in my face all the time. The thing that is nice, though, even if I don't see that, I don't work with budgets every day, but I still have access, I can always type in the word budget in my little search here in the forms dropdown and jump over to my budgets as needed. While I'm here, let's say I'm just starting off my project. I'm going into this log. Maybe I want to track my submittals. I've been using Excel or whatever in the past. I just started with ProjectTeam. I need to be able to quickly add submittals into the system. Certainly, I could click New and go one by one and create my submittals. Or, as I mentioned in the opening, you can also batch import your information. So let's say that I already have some kind of spreadsheet or Excel document that I want to import. This is a three-step little process where I can download a template, prepare the data, and then upload. I'm going to go ahead and take my submittals, go ahead and upload those. It'll take a couple seconds. I can see now that my 30 submittals have been added to the system. I can go back to the submittal log, and you'll see all of those submittals now added to my log. So very, very simple to import different types of data into your different projects. Now that it's in there, now I can manipulate or I can view, let's say, my submittal, add my attachments, route this for approvals in a workflow, something like that. But it's very, very simple to import data, as easy it is to create new data one by one. I'm going to jump over to this other product to kind of dive into some other document types. I mentioned budgets. We do have things like drawings as well, so I can go to packages of drawings or view individual drawings. You have list views versus thumbnail views. I can open up a drawing in full screen mode to add things like my markups or whatever I want to do. We have contracts, change orders, etc. I do want to jump into an RFI. I think that's a pretty standard document that most people use on a daily basis, no matter what your role is on a project. So I want to jump in there and just kind of look around. So if I jump into, let's say, any of those record types, contracts, change orders, RFIs, I get the first page that I see is my RFI log. So these are the RFIs that I have access to on this project. In the view, I can see different columns at the top. So I see official RFI number, subject, requested by, date requested, etc. If you're already logging into ProjectTeam, you might have a different view here based on your own configurations. But I can see all this data very quickly. I can also go in and configure my log. So let's say that's really good what I see in these checkboxes, but I also want to check out the category and potentially if there's any cost impact related to these RFIs and save that. And then you'll notice my log is going to refresh and show me that data now, the category and the cost impact. Beyond that, we already talked about how I could import data. I first imported from the submittal log. Certainly I can import things pretty much on any log. But you also have the ability to bulk edit. So I can go into each one of these RFIs individually. Let's say that I want to change this category from plumbing to structural, or maybe I have a set of punch list items that I need to close out, and I can do that in some kind of bulk action. Or maybe even on the previous example, if I had a submittal, while I'm importing that information, I don't yet have a responsible party, but then maybe a month down the road, I do kind of identify who the responsible parties are for each submittal, and I want to bulk edit those actions. In this case, I have this category. I want to change these three to structural. I can just check the boxes on the log here. On the bottom, you'll notice this little menu pops up. I'm going to say bulk edit. I have different fields that I can edit, and I can edit as many of these as I want. I'm just going to change this category to structural. I might say the due date here is also going to be this Friday, so I can change that. And then say next. It'll say one confirmation. Are you sure you want to change the category in the due date? I'll say confirm. That's done. I go back to my log, and you'll notice that these three items have now been changed with the appropriate categories. And then also the due dates as I selected. From the log views, you can also do things like sort and filter. So I'm going to just look for structural RFIs, maybe things that have the most behind due date, and then print. I mentioned there's very, very robust reporting within the system, but pretty much from any page, you can print the data very quickly. If I'm running into a meeting, I don't have time to create even an express report. I just want to print something, run into the meeting. I can do that very quickly. I'll go ahead and get rid of my filters and then get back to my standard view. So this will be the first time that I'm jumping into a record. We talked about the logs, and you can create new records or bulk import records. But what if I'm actually looking at an individual record? So in this case, I'm going to look at RFI number 23 and see what's going on here. At the top of my screen, I see metadata about this form. RFI, location for Waterline Splice, created by Josh on 6:30, right before this webinar. Underneath of that, I have this shared with information. So kind of like a Google Docs, I can create information in ProjectTeam, as I mentioned. I can individually share until I want to share it out to a larger group. Or I could set things up called share rules that might say every time I create an RFI, I automatically want it to share to the rest of my team or whatever groups that you want. In this case, it's just me and Jack. I might also share to other users, and I can see different groups at the top. And these are all configurable. I can share to whatever email address that I want. So I can type in here, maybe Matt, and it's going to show different people. I can also go into the users and go down to share to Brian or Matt and say share, and that's going to add those two other people. From this view, I can always hover over any of these people's faces, and it does give me what's called a read receipt. So it's going to say Jack from ProjectTeam, which is my organization, has last viewed this document just a little bit before this webinar. So I'm sharing this information out. It is driving email notifications or whatever based on different preferences. I can always make sure that as I'm sharing information, the people that I want to collaborate with are actually getting back into the system, and we're able to do that effectively. Underneath of that, you have the details area. This is where you have all the different fields of your different forms, like we saw from the log view, official RFI number, question, etc. Then you can also go down to your workflows. Let's say that I want to start a workflow. You can have as many workflows on a document as you want. You can have the same workflow across all of your documents or some subset of documents. And I want to start that. Workflows can be set off right from the creation of a document, or you can kind of ad hoc start workflows at some later time, like I've done here. In this case, I do have a 3-step workflow: a content review, review attachments, and then create some transmittal or some output. On the top of my workflow area, I see a visual, and then below that, I see the details. So this got started on 6:30. It's currently pending at step 1, and we're waiting on step 2 and 3. Underneath the visual, we have the details area. So same information is showing up here, not giving me too much, except it is going to call out my different names. I can take my action, since I am part of this step, say this actually looks good, and then send it to step 2. So if I open up the workflow again, step 1 has now been passed. It's currently waiting at step 2. And I can see all the different details in here as I go through. In step 2, you will notice that there's more than one person. So you can include multiple individuals or even a group in your different workflows. You can also have rules like, should all people or all people in the step make an approval before it passes on, or do we not care and we just want one person to take their approval before it moves on? Step 2 here is asking me to review the attachments. So on an RFI or on any other document type, you might have attachments that you're tracking. There is always a panel for attachments on your forms. I'm going to actually pull this over a little bit. And I do see attachments showing up here. I have a couple of photos, I have a PDF, and I have some kind of Word document. Maybe I want to drag all of these right into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Once I do, I see those are listed here. I can always rename them. I do have kind of metadata about who uploaded those documents. There's a lot more from a property standpoint that you can go through and see. You can do full version control on all of your files, etc. What I want to do here, though, is I just want to open up some of my files. So in this case, I'm going to click on this PDF, and it's going to pull up something that looks a lot like maybe a drawing. We could always link drawings another way. But for this example, I'm pulling up this PDF that looks like a drawing. I can jump into any zoom level that I want. I can go over to this building B6. I can do things like turn my markups on, add different types of markups like a standard construction cloud here. And that's available for me. Any type of markup that I create within the system is always going to add a kind of a history view on this left-hand side. So similar to adding that construction cloud, I might want a pin, and maybe I'll make this a purple pin, to some inspection that we've done in the past. And now that purple pin is showing up. It'll say that Josh Whitmer from ProjectTeam added that inspection for the safety location. Same thing on the left-hand side. I do see my history, and this is a live link. So I can click on that. It'll open up more of the about this inspection in this case, and I can read what's going on. In a lot of other systems, they might allow you to mark up PDFs that you upload. In ProjectTeam, we also allow you to add markups to other file types. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go to the right here. I'm going to pull up, let's say, an image. I'm going to go down to 150%. Same thing, I can add my markups in here. So maybe there's some tarp that I want to make sure that we get out of the way before we kind of fill that trench. I can call that thing out in any way that I need through my different markup or annotation ability. Once you make annotations, like I said, all full history is showing up on the left-hand side. You also have this red M showing up next to your file, just indicating that this file has markups on it now. There's an original, which you could always download, but then there's also a marked up file that you could download as well. Kind of working through my different files, this is another image, but here's also a Word document. So let's say that I've got this Word document, maybe there was something created from some other system, and I'm collaborating with somebody from another system, and they sent me something, and I need to import that into ProjectTeam as an attachment. I can see that here. just like we did from general shapes and text, you can also kind of add your own markups on these Office type of documents. So whether that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. I can go in here and call out special information. So maybe I want to highlight this. Maybe there's something that I want to do, and this is important here. So I want to add, some kind of underlining to call that out in any way. All of that is available. And same thing on the left-hand side. Anything that you do is always going to be tracked in the history here. And somebody might go in here and say, you know what, I'm going to add a reply to this and say, whatever the deal is for this item. So you can always add your replies, approvals, markups, etc. to your different file types. Really no limit in that way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this. You will notice that just like we did from the full screen view, we do have this little red M showing up on these 3 files that I did add markups on. I'm going to go to the top here. Since I started the workflow and it is in my court, I do see this big green banner showing up on top where I could actually take my action right from here. As I continue kind of going through the different panels, I want to show this right-hand side. So the first one is action items. Let's say that I did add markups on my files. I want to also add some action items here. So the first one, I want to say just review my markups. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to, let's say, Jack, set a due date of Friday, and then just save that thing. So now when either me or Jack looks at this RFI, we'll see this action item showing up. It is driving an email notification saying, hey, Jack, Josh Whitmer assigned you action item on location for Waterline Splice RFI. Click here to view and take your action. He could do that, go in, mark that thing complete. That's going to send me an email back saying, hey, that item's been complete, so I can check on it. Underneath, we have general comments. So this is where you can kind of have a discussion on your different forms, track that any way that you want. Beyond comments, you also have activity. Everything that ever changes on your document is always going to be tracked in the activity view here. And you can actually even go back in time to view previous changes. So that's called an as of, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then finally, beyond your comments, you have this reference links. So in ProjectTeam, you can create documents or forms and link those things in any way that you want to kind of have a categorized view and kind of organize your different form types. In this example, I could create new information. So let's say I have an RFI, maybe I'm a general contractor, I need to escalate this to a PCO and then eventually a change order and get pricing for that type of thing. But in this case, you also have the ability to add existing links. So let's say that I want to add this office inspection. Maybe there's some submittal item that we're also looking at, and maybe even a potential change order. So let's say that there's this ECN change order or PCO that I want to add in there. You'll see all of these different items are now listed in this reference links area. And if I click on any of them, let's say the PCO, I can read about what's going on with the PCO. I do see the whole history, of the cost breakdown of this PCO, which I could always expand, etc. But it is linking back to my RFI as well. So I can go back and forth between my RFI information very quickly throughout the system. All right. The next thing I kind of want to go over is the ability to print. So on your different forms, you have this ability to create what are called merge templates, which are kind of predefined print outputs in any way that you want them to look. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and merge this RFI to a template. I'm going to choose RFI late letter, and you can have as many merge templates as you want. Since I uploaded this template or this formatted output as a Word document, you have the ability to kind of get it out as Word or have it as a PDF. I can say next. If you remember, I did drag and drop 2 photos along with a PDF and a Word document onto the attachments area. I actually want to put those photos inside of my document, so I don't want to add them as attachments to the back. I actually want to put them right inside my document. I'm gonna match those up with 2 tags that I have, photo 1 and photo 2. Say next. Do I want to include any attachments to the back as well? I could do that, but for now I'll skip it, and then merge. So what's happening right now is it's looking at the document, number 23, location for Waterline Splice, those 2 photos that I added in there, putting all of those things into one formatted output. And now I have this nice view here. So I've got boilerplate information, whatever, late letter or some response letter that I want to put, or some legal language that I want to have on my form here. it's putting the live data from 23 locations for whatever inside this document. Then I can also see things like my photos showing up here. So you can include all kinds of different text and field inputs into your different outputs so that you have some really nice reports or merge templates at the end of the day. From here, I can download this information. I can email this information to any email address, or I can share the information directly inside of ProjectTeam, which is going to act almost as a secure email in that way, where you can track everything, you get those read receipts, etc. So it's a really good way to share, especially things like your contract documents or things that you might not want to share the actual record form, but you want to share the output of that contract and make sure people are viewing that information. So that's kind of the basics of the form view. We looked at submittals, we imported our submittals, we quickly looked at something like a PCO or a budget log. We didn't spend too much time in there because we do have more webinars kind of later on in the different months, kind of focusing on those items. But one of the other really important areas that I have not touched on yet, but I did include in my intro, is the ability to configure. So what does that mean? Let's say that on my project, on this Plano demo project, for whatever reason, we have some other pieces of information that we want to be able to track. Right now, I see things like RFI number, subject, question, etc. Maybe from a lessons learned standpoint, I also want to know the reason for this RFI. Maybe I'm the person that is the designing side, and I've been creating information. Why are people submitting so many RFIs, or what can we get better as an organization on improving? Or maybe there's another, maybe I have so many RFIs and I want to be able to prioritize them in some way based on some priority or category, and I want to add different fields. So I'm going to go ahead and add two different fields to this form. I'm going to add a priority, and I'm going to add a reason for RFI. And I don't see those showing up right now, so let's go add them. So this is going to be limited to your administrators. So I can go in here and say customize my form fields. In here, I get to the form properties of the record. I'm going to go ahead and say new. As an organization, you have really two options. You can set customizations at the company level or organization level, or within your projects, and then you can do things like mark projects as templates, so those things carry forward going on all of your projects. But I'm inside this add field to my RFI view. I have different options such as checkboxes, collections or tables, date fields, email fields, etc. Let's say the first thing that I want to add is that priority field. So I'm going to go ahead to pick list, which makes sense. Say next, and just call this thing priority. In my help text, I might say like, this is used to populate important reports. I'm going to add some values here. Let's say high, medium, or low priority. Once I add those options, I can drag and drop those things around however I want. If I have a lot of options, I also could have imported, so copy and paste, let's say from Excel, or just very quickly add these and then say add, so those all get added in this way. So I've added this first priority field. I'm going to say next. I can set field level access on this field. So ProjectTeam does allow you to share records, and everybody might have a slightly different view based on their field level access. In this case, I might say, you know what, this is just something that my company needs to know about. I don't want my contractors to know about this information. So I'm just going to say priority is just a ProjectTeam related field and just give it to that group. Next, I want to save and share because I did say that I want to add two new custom fields, one for priority, one for reason for RFI. A reason for RFI, that might be like a paragraph. So I'm going to go down to multi-line text. Go in here and say reason for RFI. And this is for lessons learned. Okay. Same thing, I just maybe want my internal group to know about this, so I'm just going to say save. Once I've added those two fields, if I look at the order of the fields, I notice those things are at the bottom because it's the last thing that I've added. I might want priority showing up right underneath my RFI number. I might want reason for RFI showing up maybe right underneath the date requested. And go ahead and save. Now when I look at my form view, I actually go ahead and edit one of my different RFIs. I do see the priority showing up here with those three options that we added. I see the help text that we added together. And same thing with the reason for RFI. This is now a multi-line text field with that help text that we added together. If I save this, I will notice that whatever's captured in my input has been showing on my form. And I can even go back to my log view, and since we can configure our views, even add those different pieces of information on the log as well. So I might add those 2 new custom fields to my log. It's going to refresh my log and show me that information. Those things are now available on my bulk edits and my reports and my dashboards, etc. So super, super simple to go into the system and customize this to fit your organization's exact needs. This is limited to administrators, so it's not the wild west or whatever. So you can go in here and kind of create your own company standards, and everybody can kind of abide by those standards. And then you can create really great reports and dashboards to kind of drive your different insights and decision making based on those things. From this standpoint, let's say that I go into my RFIs and my submittals and my contracts and my change orders or whatever different custom inspection forms or whatever you're trying to track, maintenance forms in the system. Let's say you configure those things, you create workflow for those things, you set up folder structures and all that for those pieces of information. What you can do is go to your project homepage and set projects as templates going forward. So now that I've set this as a template, every time I create a brand new project, it's going to ask me, do you want to create it from scratch, or do you want to base your new project on some kind of template now that you set all those customizations up? And that's what I would choose here. So it's going to save you a lot of time. You might take some time to really think about what you want to put into the system in the beginning, and then going forward, now that you have a standard for your organization, you want all of your projects to kind of abide by that standard. I'm going to go into the files area real quick. I'm mostly going to skip over files, but I just want you to know that you can go into your file documents, upload your different files, build folder structures to whatever you need, and then store your information in that way. I know a lot of people are still using FTP sites or Box.com or Dropbox or whatever. You can do very similar things in ProjectTeam, and then you can share this information with groups or users from this way. So I might have 100 different folders. I want to share some kind of subset of those folders to just a few different companies, and I can do that. And then the last thing that I want to touch on as we're all here as a group is the reporting side. So if I click onto reports, I can go into my different reports, and we have different folders for access on your reports, but I just want to kind of run a couple. So let's say that maybe it's important for my project management side team to have some kind of overall dashboard. In this case, I've integrated the system or used an integration to something called TrueView, which is a camera. And I can even turn this on to a live video. I also have high level information here showing RFIs, meetings, change orders, or whatever information is most important to me. Just like we saw from the different form views, you can configure your forms and add those configurations to your reports. You can also configure these reports in any way that you want, or dashboards in any way that you want that makes the most sense, again, to kind of drive your business insights. Every dashboard and report is going to stay interactive, so I can turn off or on different filters in these different ways. I can also include full reports in this view, and each of these is going to be a drill down where I could say, you know what, this project engineer for $224,000, I want to check more into that, and I can jump in and see more information about what's going on. Are there any pending amendments or funding changes, or has this thing been approved or not? What's going on with this item? Same thing, I did spend some time on RFIs and submittals. We imported submittals and we talked about different RFIs. You can run dashboards on any specific types of information as well. So this is going to look at RFI tracking and submittal tracking, looking at total RFIs on the project, open RFIs, total submittals, open submittals, seeing all this in a graphical view. And then same thing, I've got this nice little list view showing up here. I have this little red dot showing things that have not been closed or maybe not been closed and are overdue. So you can set up filters and different conditional arguments in that way. And then again, all of these are live links. So I can click into any of these to open up, in this case, the RFI or the submittal or any data that you want to see very quickly. So those were two examples of dashboards. You certainly have other abilities to run different types of reports. We already kind of saw a sample of this report showing up. I mentioned that your reports, just like your dashboards, are all interactive. So I'm looking at this view, maybe I can hover over here and say mechanical is making up this $5 million budget. I can always right click and change this to some kind of horizontal bar chart if I want to, and then export that to PDF or whatever else. If I export to other file types, let's say Excel, PDF, of course, Microsoft Word, it's going to give some kind of output, and it's going to respect all the different formatting changes that I've had in that overall output. So if I open up my Excel document here, now I can see that same information showing up in Excel just like it looked on the project team side. So all of those color changes that you make or whatever formatting, logos, etc., is all going to come over in your different outputs. Then the last thing that I want to touch on from the reporting side is, let's say that I have information that is super important to me. It makes a lot of sense, and I kind of drive my business off of this. Let's say I have cash flows and budgets and RFI reports or project summary reports that I want to look at. All of this is really good. I might combine those into a chained report, and then I could even create a schedule based on that. So let's say that I have a management meeting or some project type of meeting on Mondays at 8 a.m. I could set a new weekly report in here, drive this as a PDF, maybe send it to myself and anybody else, any other email address that I wanted to, at 7 a.m. on Mondays. Okay, so before my 8 o'clock meeting, this is going to get delivered to me automatically through email, so I don't have to log into the system and run the report. I automatically get a reminder as the report comes to my email that I can look at, make sure I've got all my ducks in a row before I walk into that 8 o'clock meeting. So it really helps kind of set up and manage those processes as well. All right. So I'm going to jump back. That's really the end of the presentation from this side. I do want to kind of mention we do have other webinars coming up. So there's about 2, I think, from here on to the end of the year on different types of processes. Certainly some are going to be more interesting than others depending on your role and what you're focusing on your projects. And then what happens next? So before I open it up to Q&A, I think there's really 3 routes that you all can go. Obviously, if you're using ProjectTeam right now, or your company signed up for ProjectTeam and you're using it, you have support and services that you can reach out to. If you're just kind of evaluating, I think there's really 3 paths. You can continue to just learn about construction software. We do have a buyer's guide that you can receive to view more about what's going on. I think this is like 25 pages. It does go through use cases and examples. You can evaluate ProjectTeam further, and that's in feature brochures, or we have a ton of videos on our website. You can kind of request more, including a recording of this demo afterwards. You can certainly forward this on to others from your organization. And then if you're ready to, there's also one-on-one conversations. So we do have one-on-one demos kind of more tailored to your needs. If there are specific examples that you want to kind of go through, certainly we can do that. Or if you just want somebody else to kind of take you through different aspects of ProjectTeam, that is all available.